The night was still when Emily Parker heard her phone vibrate on the nightstand. A trembling voice whispered, "They know where you are," before static swallowed the line. Her chest tightened as silence pressed against the walls. She sat up in bed, heart pounding, staring at the glow of the digital clock that read 12:03 a.m. A sharp, piercing scream shattered the quiet, echoing from somewhere outside. Emily gasped and rushed to the window, but the street below was deserted, bathed in the sickly orange glow of the lampposts. Fear crawled across her skin as she noticed something on the cracked pavement. A necklace glimmering faintly under the streetlight. Its chain twisted, its pendant etched with unreadable symbols. Emily whispered to herself, "What is this doing here?" Her voice trembled as she stepped back, realizing she had just witnessed something no one could explain. The night had opened a door she was never meant to walk through. Emily pressed her forehead to the cold glass, searching the deserted street, but nothing stirred. Her thoughts spun with fear as she whispered, "That scream was real." She grabbed her robe and hurried to the front door, her bare feet tapping lightly on the hardwood floor. The house seemed to breathe with her, every creak echoing louder than it should. She hesitated at the lock, heart racing, then pulled the door open. The night air slapped against her skin, damp and metallic. The necklace still lay on the cracked pavement, glinting faintly as if waiting for her. Emily's hand trembled as she stepped closer, the silence around her crushing. A stray cat darted across the street, startling her into a sharp gasp. She whispered to herself, "It's just a necklace." But even as she said it, she felt it watching her, as though the symbols were alive. Emily crouched beside the necklace, careful not to touch it. The pendant pulsed faintly, as though it had a heartbeat. She whispered, "This isn't possible." Her breath fogged in the air, though the night wasn't cold enough for frost. Her eyes scanned the symbols, jagged lines forming an unreadable script. The silence pressed harder, and she felt the weight of unseen eyes. Emily reached out, then froze as a whisper brushed her ear, though no one was near. She turned sharply, finding only empty shadows. Her chest rose and fell in rapid bursts. She whispered again, "Why here? Why now?" The neighborhood lay still, but she felt as if she had been pulled into a story much older than herself. Fear wrapped around her throat like a noose. The faint hum of electricity made Emily look up at the lamppost. Its light flickered, casting long, jagged shadows across the pavement. A surge of dread tightened her chest as she realized every shadow seemed to reach toward the necklace. She muttered, "This is wrong," her voice barely audible. The street was silent, yet her ears rang with tension. She stood slowly, backing away, her eyes locked on the pendant. A sudden gust of wind slammed the door of her house shut behind her, and she jumped. Emily spun, staring at her darkened home, its windows blank and hollow. Her breath caught in her throat as the night seemed to grow thicker, heavier, like an unseen force closing in. She clenched her fists, knowing she was trapped between two choices: run or uncover why the necklace had chosen her. Emily forced herself to kneel once more, unable to resist the pull of the object. Her trembling fingers brushed against the chain, and a jolt surged through her arm like fire. She cried out, collapsing onto the pavement as images flashed in her mind: a woman screaming, fire consuming an old house, and the same necklace glowing in the darkness. She clutched her chest, gasping as her vision blurred. The pendant lay cold against her skin, though she hadn't truly picked it up. Emily whispered, "This is a curse." Her voice cracked and uneven. Tears welled in her eyes as the symbols pulsed faintly, casting distorted shadows across her face. The night swallowed the sound of her sobbing, leaving only silence and the eerie glow. She realized she was no longer alone in her family's dark history. Emily sat at her kitchen table, the necklace placed inside a glass bowl. The faint glow pulsed as if alive, each flicker synchronized with her heartbeat. She whispered, "You shouldn't exist." Her coffee sat untouched, steam curling into the air like ghostly fingers. The house creaked again, louder this time, as though something walked within the walls. Emily pressed her palms against her temples, desperate to think clearly. Her phone buzzed, flashing an unknown number. She let it ring, paralyzed with dread. When it stopped, silence returned, suffocating her. She muttered, "What do you want from me?" Her voice cracked, heavy with fear. Outside, a branch scraped against the window, and the necklace glowed brighter, as if answering her. She felt she was no longer in control, but trapped in a game only the necklace understood. Emily's phone buzzed again, but this time she answered. A voice, calm and low, said, "The necklace belongs to you." Her chest tightened as she asked, "Who are you?" The line went dead, leaving only her ragged breathing. She stared at the necklace, her skin prickling with unease. The glow dimmed, then brightened again, as if mocking her. She whispered, "I didn't ask for this." A sharp knock at the door jolted her upright. She froze, holding her breath. Another knock echoed through the house, deliberate and heavy. Emily crept toward the door, each step hesitant. She asked softly, "Who's there?" Silence answered her. Then a man's voice spoke, "You found it." Her pulse raced as she realized someone had been watching her all along. Emily cracked the door open, revealing a tall man in a dark coat, his face partially hidden beneath the brim of a hat. His eyes glinted with knowledge she couldn't place. He said, "That necklace carries blood." Her throat went dry as she whispered, "Who are you?" He didn't answer, instead stepping back into the moonlight, revealing sharp features and a calm, unreadable expression. Emily felt drawn and repelled at the same time. "Anu." The man glanced past her shoulder into the house, before speaking again. "It will destroy you if you let it." She clutched the door tighter, torn between slamming it shut and demanding answers. He gave a faint smile, then said, "But it can also give you power." Emily's fear deepened, realizing this stranger knew far more than she ever could. Emily's voice shook as she asked, "Why are you here?" The man tilted his head, his shadows stretching across her floor. He said, "Because you're the last one left." Her stomach twisted at his words, though she didn't understand them fully. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "That necklace doesn't appear by accident." Emily's hand brushed the edge of the door, ready to slam it shut, but curiosity burned through her fear. She asked, "What do you mean the last one?" He didn't answer directly, only whispered, "Your blood remembers." With that, he stepped back, vanishing into the shadows. Emily stood frozen, clutching the frame of her door, her breath shaky. She whispered to herself, "What did he mean?" But deep down, she feared she already knew. Emily locked the door quickly, her fingers trembling against the cold metal. She pressed her back to the wall, sliding down until she sat on the floor. Her breaths came sharp, uneven. She whispered, "Last one left." The words echoed like a curse. The necklace pulsed brighter from the kitchen, casting faint light into the hallway. She stared at it, heart hammering. Her grandmother's stories of strange deaths whispered in her mind. She whispered, "It's been us all along." The house groaned, settling deeper into the silence. Emily clutched her knees to her chest, tears welling in her eyes. She felt the necklace calling to her stronger than before, as though it now knew her fears. And for the first time, Emily realized she might not be able to escape it. Emily jolted awake at dawn, her head heavy with fragments of disturbing dreams. She remembered flashes of fire, screams, and the necklace burning against her skin. She sat up, clutching her chest, whispering, "It was just a dream." Yet her skin tingled where the pendant had rested. The air in her bedroom felt colder than it should, the blinds rattling against a still window. She noticed the necklace no longer lay in the kitchen bowl. Her stomach dropped as she found it hanging from her nightstand, its chain draped like it had always been there. Emily whispered, "No, this isn't possible." Her voice cracked as fear surged through her veins. She reached out trembling, but pulled her hand back quickly. The pendant pulsed faintly, as if it had moved on its own during the night. Emily stumbled into the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face, hoping to wash away the nightmare. When she lifted her head, she froze. In the mirror, her reflection smiled faintly while her real lips stayed still. She gasped, clutching the counter, whispering, "This isn't me." The reflection tilted its head, eyes darkening before returning to normal. Her chest tightened as she stumbled backward, knocking a towel to the floor. She whispered again, "This curse is real." The necklace's faint glow reached through the crack of the bathroom door, as though reminding her of its presence. Emily pressed her hands to her face, trembling. She felt her reality slipping, her own image becoming untrustworthy. She whispered shakily, "I'm losing myself." Later that morning, Emily sat at her grandmother's old desk, pulling out a faded journal she had never noticed before. Its leather cover cracked, initials burned into the surface. She flipped through brittle pages filled with frantic handwriting and strange sketches of the same necklace. Her pulse quickened as she read entries about a family curse stretching back generations. The words, "blood debt," appeared over and over. Emily whispered, "This is why he said I was the last one." Her eyes burned with tears as she realized her family had carried this burden in silence. A name repeated in the margins caught her attention, Margaret Parker. Her grandmother. Emily's throat closed as she whispered, "You knew." The truth was no longer hidden. It had always been here, waiting for her. The house creaked as Emily continued reading. She found a passage describing a woman who died clutching the necklace. Her body burned, though no fire was found. Emily's hands trembled as she whispered, "The tragic victim." She turned another page and found pressed flowers beside a yellowed photograph of her grandmother as a young woman, holding the very pendant. Emily's vision blurred with tears as she realized the curse had already taken so much from her family. The silence of the house felt heavy, suffocating. She whispered, "It's been waiting for me." A sudden thump upstairs made her flinch, the journal slipping from her fingers. Her pulse spiked as she stared at the ceiling, afraid to face what might already be inside her home. Emily forced herself upstairs, each step creaking beneath her bare feet. The hallway stretched longer than she remembered, shadows thickening at the edges. She whispered, "Please don't be real." At the end of the hall, she found her grandmother's old trunk, left slightly open. Kneeling, she pushed the lid up and froze. Inside were faded dresses, photographs, and a small box. She opened it and gasped. Inside lay another necklace, identical to the one downstairs. Her stomach churned as she whispered, "There's more than one." The pendant pulsed faintly, and for a moment she thought she heard a heartbeat. Emily backed away, clutching her chest, realizing the curse wasn't confined to a single object. It was multiplying, spreading through her family's bloodline like a disease. Emily sat cross-legged on her grandmother's bedroom floor, surrounded by boxes of old letters and photographs. The second necklace lay beside her, its faint glow lighting the papers. She whispered, "2 of them. How many more?" Her hands trembled as she unfolded a brittle letter addressed to Margaret Parker. The ink was faded, but the words carried weight. The curse follows blood, not stone. Emily's chest tightened. She realized it was never about the object itself, but about her family. A shadow fell across the page, and she looked up, startled. No one was there, yet she felt watched. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "You knew all along, Grandma." The house groaned, like it agreed, pressing her deeper into dread. Emily carried the letter downstairs, her bare feet silent against the worn wood. She stopped at the bottom of the stairs when a knock echoed through the house. She hesitated before opening the door, revealing an older woman with wild silver hair and piercing eyes. The woman said, "You found them, haven't you?" Emily froze, whispering, "Who are you?" The woman stepped forward, her voice sharp, yet fragile. "The one they call eccentric. But I know what hunts your bloodline." Emily's stomach knotted, realizing this was the person her grandmother once warned her about, the insider no one believed. Emily asked, "What do you mean?" The woman simply said, "The necklaces aren't cursed. Your family is." The older woman entered, her steps slow, eyes scanning every corner. She reached for the necklace on the table but stopped short, whispering, "It feeds on you, not itself." Emily's throat tightened as she asked, "Why my family?" The woman's expression softened briefly before hardening again. "Because your ancestor chose survival over sacrifice." Emily shook her head, whispering, "I don't understand." The woman leaned closer, her voice low. "Every generation, it chooses one. Now it's you." Emily's pulse raced as the truth pressed down like a weight. Her family's survival had been bought with blood, and she was next in line. The older woman's eyes glimmered with both pity and fear. Emily's breath shook as she whispered, "How do I stop it?" The older woman looked away, muttering, "You don't stop it, you endure it." Emily clenched her fists, anger burning through fear. "No, there has to be another way." Before the woman could respond, a loud knock thundered against the door. Emily froze, her eyes darting to the entrance. The woman whispered, "He's here." Emily's stomach dropped, remembering the mysterious man from before. The knocking grew louder, heavier, shaking the doorframe. Emily whispered, "What does he want?" The woman's eyes darkened as she said, "To remind you the curse isn't yours to break. It's his to keep." The knocking stopped suddenly, leaving silence so thick Emily could hear her own pulse. She whispered, "He's gone." The older woman shook her head, her voice heavy. "No. He never leaves. He waits." Emily stepped forward cautiously, her hand hovering over the lock, but didn't open it. Her body shook as she turned back toward the kitchen, where both necklaces now pulsed faintly in unison. She gasped, whispering, "They're waking." The older woman's face paled, her voice breaking for the first time. "You don't have much time." Emily's knees weakened, and she gripped the table for support, realizing the curse wasn't just haunting her. It was calling to her, binding her tighter with every passing moment. Emily paced the living room, her hands shaking as the two necklaces pulsed on the table like living hearts. She whispered, "I can't do this." The eccentric woman's voice cut through the silence. "You don't have a choice." Emily snapped, "You knew about this curse and never warned me." The woman's gaze turned away, heavy with guilt. Emily's throat burned as she demanded, "How many in my family did you watch suffer?" The older woman whispered, "Too many." Emily stepped back, the betrayal cutting deeper than the curse itself. She realized the one person who could guide her had chosen silence until now. She clenched her fists, whispering, "You let us die." Emily stormed toward the staircase, but the older woman called after her, "If you walk away, it will follow." Emily froze, her back turned, whispering, "It already has." She climbed the stairs, heart hammering. In the hallway, shadows stretched unnaturally along the walls. She felt the necklace's pulse echoing inside her chest. When she reached her grandmother's trunk again, she saw the lid wide open, though she had closed it earlier. Inside, the second necklace was gone. Emily whispered, "No." Her pulse raced as she backed away. The sound of footsteps echoed behind her, though no one was there. A chill swept through the hall as if the house itself was alive, and she realized she was not alone upstairs. Emily spun back toward the stairs, nearly colliding with the mysterious man in the dark coat. He stood silently, blocking her path. His voice was calm, "You're searching for what you cannot control." Emily gasped, whispering, "You took it." His faint smile unsettled her as he said, "It chose me." Her body shook with fury as she snapped, "Why are you doing this?" He leaned closer, his eyes cold. "Because power always demands loyalty." Emily's chest tightened as she realized he wasn't just connected to the necklaces. He had been waiting for her to unlock them. Fear and betrayal twisted together inside her as she whispered, "You've been watching me from the beginning." Emily stumbled backward, whispering, "Stay away from me." The man tilted his head, his faint smile never fading. "You've been lied to. She didn't protect your family, she offered them." Emily's eyes widened as she turned toward the older woman, who had crept up the stairs silently. Her face was pale, trembling. Emily's voice broke, "Tell me he's lying." The woman's silence was answer enough. Emily's chest constricted as betrayal struck again, deeper than before. The man's voice cut through the air, calm and cruel. Trust is a fragile thing, isn't it? Emily's knees weakened as she clutched the wall, realizing she was trapped between lies and manipulation, unable to tell who was truly her enemy. Emily's eyes burned with tears as she whispered, "You both used me." The man's calm voice replied, "No, we prepared you." The older woman stepped forward, her voice trembling. "I wanted to spare you, but I couldn't." Emily shook her head violently. "You had choices. You all had choices." The necklaces pulsed brighter downstairs, their glow spilling faint light up the staircase. Emily turned, her breath shaking. "And now, it's mine." Her voice carried both fear and resolve. For the first time, she realized the curse wasn't just a burden. It was waiting to decide what she would become. The air thickened, and the weight of betrayal pressed down harder than the curse itself. Emily descended the stairs slowly, the man and the older woman following at a distance. The two necklaces pulsed on the table like beating hearts, casting an unnatural glow across the room. Emily whispered, "It wants me." The man said, "It chose you long before tonight." Emily clenched her fists, whispering, "I won't let it control me." The older woman's voice cracked, "You can't fight what you are." Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. She stepped closer to the necklaces, every part of her screaming to stop, yet unable to resist. The glow grew stronger, wrapping her in its light. Her reflection in the window flickered, showing someone else staring back. Emily gasped, realizing she was fighting not just the curse, but herself. Emily reached out and touched one necklace. A surge of images flooded her mind, fire-consuming homes, screams of her ancestors, and her grandmother clutching the pendant. She staggered back, clutching her head, gasping, "Stop!" The man's voice rose, "Let it show you." Emily collapsed to her knees, the light wrapping tighter around her. She saw her grandmother whispering, "Blood keeps you safe." Emily cried out, "Safe from what?" The older woman stepped forward, her voice trembling, "From it." Emily looked up, her face streaked with tears, realizing she was never meant to escape, only to continue the burden. The truth crushed her chest as she whispered, "I can't carry this." The house shook as the necklaces pulsed in unison, rattling windows and furniture. Emily staggered to her feet, shouting, "This ends with me." The man's cold eyes narrowed. "No, it begins with you." He reached for the necklaces, but Emily slammed her hand over them, forcing the glow to burn brighter. Her scream echoed through the house as the light expanded, cracking the walls. The older woman cried out, shielding her face. Emily's body trembled violently, torn between being consumed and resisting. Her voice shook as she shouted, "I won't be your vessel." The man's smile faltered for the first time. The necklaces burned hotter, pulsing like they were about to shatter. Emily felt her strength slipping as the light seared her skin. The man shouted, "Give in! You'll be stronger than all of them." Emily cried out, "I don't want power." Her voice cracked, filled with pain. The older woman staggered closer, whispering, "If you resist, it will kill you." Emily turned, fury in her eyes. "Then, let it kill me." She pressed harder on the necklaces, and the light burst upward like fire, shaking the ceiling. Shadows twisted violently, stretching across the walls. The man stumbled back, his calm facade breaking. For the first time, Emily saw fear in his eyes. The room groaned as if the house itself would collapse under the weight of the curse. The light snapped, plunging the house into darkness. Emily fell to the floor, gasping for breath, the necklaces silent and cold beside her. The man stood frozen, his expression grim. "You've broken them." Emily whispered, "No, they're not gone." The older woman sank to her knees, her face pale, whispering, "You've only awakened them." Emily's chest heaved as she stared at the necklaces, which no longer glowed but shimmered faintly in the moonlight. She whispered, "They're waiting." The silence was heavy, broken only by her trembling breaths. Emily realized the fight wasn't over, it had only shifted. And the curse was now inside her, woven into her blood. Emily sat alone in the living room, her body weak, the necklaces lying cold on the table. The man stood in the shadows, silent, his gaze unreadable. The older woman whispered, "You've bound yourself to it." Emily's eyes stung as she said, "I broke them." The woman shook her head. "You broke nothing. You only made it yours." Emily clutched her knees, trembling, her breath ragged. The house was silent, except for the faint ticking of a clock. Emily whispered, "It's in me now." For the first time, fear and power mixed in her voice. The man stepped forward slightly, his cold eyes glinting. "And that is exactly where it belongs." Emily rose slowly, her legs unsteady, but her eyes burned with defiance. She said, "I'll never be like you." The man's lips curled faintly. "You already are." Emily shook her head violently, backing away. The older woman whispered, "You don't understand. The curse doesn't take, it transforms." Emily's chest tightened as she whispered, "I won't let it." The necklaces pulsed faintly again, though no one touched them. A chill filled the room, and Emily felt something stirring inside her veins. Her voice cracked. "It's alive in me." The man's calm expression broke into something darker, almost satisfied. The room seemed to bend with the weight of his silence. Emily rushed to the kitchen window, yanking it open for air. The night outside was unnaturally still, fog creeping along the ground. She gasped, "It's everywhere." The man's voice carried from behind, "It spreads through blood." Emily spun, tears streaking her cheeks, shouting, "Then it dies with me." She grabbed one of the necklaces, clutching it tightly. Pain seared through her palm, her skin blistering instantly. She screamed but refused to drop it. The older woman cried out, "Don't, you'll kill yourself." Emily's jaw tightened, her voice raw. "Better me than all of you." Shadows twisted violently along the walls, as the necklace pulsed like a heartbeat against her palm. Emily collapsed to her knees, the necklace still burning in her hand. The man stepped forward, his voice sharp, "You think you can destroy it, you are it." Emily's chest heaved as she whispered, "Then I'll destroy myself." The older woman fell beside her, tears in her eyes. "Don't do this, there is another way." Emily's voice cracked, "You lied, there was never another way." The necklaces pulsed faster, the room shaking as though the house itself was collapsing. Emily's body shook violently, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. For a brief moment, she looked inhuman. The man whispered with awe, "It's begun?" Emily gasped, fighting for control, her body torn between surrender and survival. The room fell silent as the glow from the necklaces extinguished in an instant, plunging everything into shadow. Emily collapsed, motionless, the pendant slipping from her hand onto the floor. The man and the older woman stood frozen, waiting. Then, Emily's chest rose with a slow breath. Her eyes opened, glowing faintly, eerily calm. She whispered, "It's mine now." The man smiled, satisfied, while the older woman sobbed, whispering, "No, child, no." Emily rose to her feet, her posture steady, almost regal. She looked at both of them and said softly, "This curse isn't broken, it's just changed." The house groaned as if alive, and outside the fog thickened, spreading further into the night.